Hello and welcome to my one take tribute to Rush Limbaugh, who died today. I first started listening to Rush Limbaugh after the 1992 presidential election. President George W. Bush had been, see, this is a live take. President H.W. Bush, Bush 41, had been defeated by Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton successfully ran on the notion that Bush had the worst economy in the last 50 years. That was a lie, but it was enough to get Bill Clinton into office. And it was the end of 1992. I was helping a neighbor with yard work, and he had a radio host playing in the garage. I said, "Who is this?" He said, "That's Rush Limbaugh." So I started listening to Rush Limbaugh from that time until this past month, where his last broadcast was February 2021. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on what Rush Limbaugh has meant to me. What I think, and if you look online, you'll immediately be barraged with headlines like Hatemonger Rush Limbaugh. Now, the rule here is Democrats have been calling every Republican leader and official and president racist, sexist, homophobes for the last 40 years. It's been overused so much, it's just ridiculous. They just toss that out as a shortcut to discussion and debate. Because you never have to debate Republicans. You just say, "Oh, you're racist, sexist, homophobes," and then put the Republican on the defensive. So when they call Rush Limbaugh a hate monger, that's said simply along the same lines where they used the same attacks on President Trump. Whenever a Republican was not in office, they would switch to Rush Limbaugh as the number one hate target. And what I wanted to talk about instead was actually what it was that made Rush Limbaugh unique and different. If you had any particular topic in the United States from the 90s onward, you'd get a general consensus, a general take. Rush Limbaugh would study the headlines, he'd go through the news stories, and then he'd come onto his radio show and he would give you a unique take that nobody else had made and nobody else had thought of. Now, it didn't matter if this was a suggestion from someone emailing him or calling him on the phone or from his own research, but Rush Limbaugh worked hard every day to analyze the news and give a unique take on it. And in my videos that I made in 2020, the year of the coof, I tried to adopt what I felt was Rush Limbaugh's unique ability. He would analyze a news story and look for that take that nobody else had made. And on every topic last year, whether it was coronavirus or the George Floyd riots, I would look at the core reporting, look at the core stories, and attempt to create videos based on the core information. So for instance, rather than reporting on a 15-second soundbite about a Joe Biden speech as summarized by CNN or Comedy Central, I would go to the actual transcript of the Joe Biden speech from 2020. I would actually watch his video of what he said. And the same for all the issues regarding the riots of 2020 and the coof. And I'll just give an example of how Rush Limbaugh influences my thinking. Last year, Joe Biden said something very interesting as a candidate. He said that as long as you could physically cross the United States border and enter our country illegally, Joe Biden said that he would give you new rights never before seen in any country. Just simply walking across the border meant that you were entitled to a federal hearing before a federal judge, and during the time that you awaited this hearing for asylum to live in the United States, Joe Biden would give you free room and board, free health care, free utilities. You know, you can't have room and board in the United States without electricity, water, food, free education for whatever children you bring across. And Joe Biden stated that the only criteria for all of these wonderful benefits paid by the U.S. taxpayer was that you managed to illegally cross into the United States, typically across the southern border of our country. Now, I can't speculate on what Joe Biden was thinking. Maybe he only meant to limit that to people emigrating from Mexico or Central America. But I used Rush Limbaugh's method of thinking. And I said, you know what? Joe Biden just said that the entire world's population qualified for this new rule of his. Literally, 7 billion people in the world could simply leave their countries, cross the American border, and be entitled to this new right that Joe Biden discovered. And this was confirmed with President Biden just a few weeks ago, where he stated that anyone who wished to enter the United States had every right to do so, and that this was going to create a flood of migration, which is now happening. And we got a preview of this with Joe Biden as a candidate. Now he's enacting these things as laws and executive orders. So now we are currently being flooded with migrants coming across the Mexican border. They're not practicing social distancing. They're not wearing masks. And the best part is the Border Patrol and immigration offices are so overwhelmed that they're not doing any COVID testing. That's right. You can just enter the country illegally, flood right in, and you will not be tested for coronavirus, for COVID, unless you specifically tell the immigration staff that I have coronavirus, or you are showing marked symptoms of that. Now, think of how Rush Limbaugh would approach this topic. If you attempted to do this under President Trump, they would say, oh, Trump's xenophobic. He's not letting these people in. Trump is not following the science, which is what Joe Biden ran on. And Joe Biden received the endorsements from numerous science magazines, such as Scientific American and Nature magazine. Joe Biden won endorsements by scientists because he would follow the science as president. Well, now Joe Biden is president, and what is this science that he's following? His science is no COVID testing for the flood of illegal immigrants that have just been waved into the country. Now, are we seeing any of these science magazines changing their minds, taking back their endorsements of Joe Biden? No. And you can see how stories like this, you can understand them better if you follow the way Rush Limbaugh would examine topics and critically do forensic examinations of what the core issues were. Here we had Joe Biden lying last year about Donald Trump's response to COVID and coronavirus. Now we are reaping the results of Joe Biden's complete lack of planning, complete lack of plans, and inability to do anything that he promised last year of following the science. Now, this was supposed to be my tribute to Rush Limbaugh, but that is, in essence, my videos are a tribute to Rush Limbaugh. He enabled me to engage in critical thinking, and even if I'm not the best thinker out there as a blogger, I wanted to at least follow his precepts of trying to think of some angle on stories that other people overlooked. And I thank you, Rush Limbaugh, for your service to the country. I thank you for assisting my ability to think through topics. And you will be missed. Thank you, sir.